Frank's Red Hot is the perfect blend of flavor and heat, so you can use an entire bottle to make recipes like buffalo chicken dip or buffalo nachos, or even things that don't start with buffalo. Frank's Red Hot, I put that on everything.
Hey, Craig!
Hey, we have something other than COVID to talk about.
Yeah, you should have been singing that Cougar Football Saturday song that the Saturday cast uses.
Yeah, but you can't, we can't do a little tailgating. We're not allowed to.
That's true. Do a little tailgating.
Yeah.
Except part of the press release was basically, do not come to Pullman to tail. How many people are going to do that, by the way? Like for real, how many people are just going to come to Pullman even if they can't go to the game?
I don't think.
And they're just to be in town, go to the bars, hang out, see their friends.
I don't know. Considering COVID is one of the hot spots, I don't know if that's such a good idea.
Yeah, but it's Eastern Washington. Those people don't believe in COVID anyway.
Yeah, but I mean, it's most of the people that go to WSU games that tailgate are not from Eastern. They come from, farther away.
But are we sure? Are we sure about what they believe?
I mean,
I wouldn't. I've seen Die Hard Cougs.
I mean, yeah, you can go ahead and characterize the entire eastern part of the state.
I'm just kidding, Eastern Washington. I'm joking. I promise. I'm joking. Hey, listen, I live in Pierce County. You live in Pierce County, and I happen to live in a part of Pierce County that also doesn't believe that the virus is real. So, there you go.
Yay. But hey, this is Podcast versus Everyone. I am Craig Powers. With me is Jeff Newser. And for the first time in a long time, we can talk about games that we know are going to happen. And that's weird. That's pretty weird.
I'm not even sure I totally believe it yet.
Yeah, I mean, it could all fall apart.
A lot could fall apart in the next 4 weeks.
Look at what Houston's dealing with. Just game after game gets canceled for them. So
I know. I do feel like that the Pac-12 has a much greater chance of success than old Houston and Arkansas State and all these G5 schools that went ahead and said, fuck it, we need the money, and went ahead and played without really the testing protocols that are necessary.
Yeah,
to pull
I know.
This off.
Like, you're always tempted to call bullshit on a lot of this stuff, and I do think money is an overriding factor. Like, they were always looking for a way to make some money, right? But I do believe that, like, some of the testing was involved because no one wanted to be liable for the health of the players. And so, I think that they'll probably be a little more rigorous about things than maybe some other leagues. So that even they're a little more cautious starting. Pac-12 has decided to start on November 6th, and Mountain West, which came out just, an hour after maybe, they're starting on October 24th. So they're going 2 weeks earlier.
Yeah, the November 6th thing, to be honest, is, I think, pretty much a bunch of bullshit.
I don't know why they need to wait that long.
They don't. The problem is they have a handful of schools that do have to wait that long. And so because they are obsessed with, equity or equality, however you want to frame it, they can't let WSU and Utah, play an extra game, right? Because that would be unfair. So instead, we have to wait until November or whatever in order to make sure that UCLA and USC and Colorado can figure their shit out with their local governments and, get a team together in time. Maybe, I don't know, maybe Washington was part of it too, given that King County seems to be stuck in perpetual phase 1,
Yeah.
But it's frustrating that they didn't just let the teams that could get it going by the earlier date at least maybe play. I mean, if the Mountain West was starting up if the Mountain West is starting up the week before, I guarantee you could be like, you could find a team to play.
Yeah.
Like they'd be like, hell yeah, let's play a Pac-12 team. I mean, I don't know. It's sort of frustrating that, that they did, I mean, they're going to be starting 2 full weeks after the Big Ten, mainly because some of the schools, particularly the Southern California schools, have really, really, really been limited on what they can do workout wise. But I'm also like sort of irritated because part of the reason why they're sort of really limited workout wise is that quite frankly, those schools really didn't push it very much with their local authorities,
right?
How to be able to practice a little more, or have larger cohorts, or have an exception or whatever. And I understand California is different. Like I get that. I've never lived in California, but I've been to California. We are sort of California adjacent, and so I'm familiar with sort of the politics to some degree of California. So, I mean, I get it. They're going to be a little tighter with the regulations because they're obviously led by left leaning government, et cetera, et cetera. But the reality is also, if you read on the stuff, the schools really did not push very hard because I think they just thought it wasn't going to happen, and then everything shifted beneath them, and the reality was that they were not prepared. They really weren't prepared. And, like we had this quote, and I don't know, I'll have to maybe go back on our Slack and look, but I was like, well, why couldn't they start on Halloween? That's stupid. And then somebody posted a quote from one of the coaches in the Pac-12 that said, basically the Big Ten's been practicing all along and we haven't done shit. And I'm like, how? Like, how could that be? And again, I think this is just, I think it's partly California, but I think honestly it's mostly just lack of leadership from the institutions and from Larry Scott, because, while, the Big 12 or the Big 10 was kind of getting their shit together, the Pac-12 was just kind of sitting around like, oh, it's really not going to happen this year. And they let their players basically, I won't say sit around because I don't think they were sitting around, but not prepare as if there was a season possible. And now all of a sudden, you need extra time. You need 6 full weeks to do it. So, yeah, I mean, the Pac-12 really can never not look horrible. And so here we are looking horrible again, even as we get football back.
Yeah, we gotta. Yeah, because like 7 games, I guess, is kind of a bummer. Like, it's not that many. I guess it's maybe.
Well, just think they could have had like 8. They pretty easily could have had 8.
And now you're to get one in, you're playing a game on December 19th, which is pretty late. It doesn't matter at most schools in the conference, but when you're looking at Colorado and Utah and WSU, if you're playing games at Colorado and Utah and WSU, like, the weather's going to be really bad for those games. Like, there's
like,
I
wouldn't be shocked if they rigged it so that those crossover games take place in maybe some of the warmer climates. But maybe not. I don't know. Yeah,
like even it'll be cold and rainy in Eugene and in Corvallis and Seattle, but but in Pullman it's going, there's going to be ice on the ground,
freeze your toes.
Like it's going to be like the coldest Pac-12 game on record if they have a game, which I really hope they do, and I hope that it's a southern, like Arizona or Southern California school that has to come up. That would be a dream. Like, I don't even care.
Absolutely.
Like, because we've seen Arizona schools and California schools have to come up to WSU in November, and just very
69 to 21 rings a bell.
Yeah, and like it's 69-7 was also in November, even though it was a much nicer day. It wasn't super cold, but yeah, exactly. Like Arizona, the last 2 times they've had to come up to Pullman in November, was 69 points were on the board.
Yeah.
So good luck with that. Please.
Should we run down real quick, just kind of like what the scenario is, what the situation is? Bolts of it.
Yeah. So basically, November 6th, the Pac-12 championship is December 18th. You're playing 6 games in between then. So 6, I guess, is it 7 games and then an 8th, or 6 and a 7th?
It's 6 and then 6 and then plus 1, the one crossover.
So the 6 games. So you have 5 games against your division, and then 1 game against a crossover team to determine who goes to the championship game, and then you have 1 extra game, which is an interesting thing that they're doing. That you mentioned in our Slack chat, wouldn't be surprised if they just kept doing this. Is they're actually going to play crossover division games on the day after the Pac-12 championship for the teams that did not make the championship game. So
this is. I mean, high schools have been doing this forever. Forever. Especially in Washington. Teams don't make the playoffs. Okay, play one more game. You play, the third place team or the fourth place team from this conference plays the fourth place team from that conference. So you get hopefully a relatively even matchup. And, the ASBs get to collect, one more set of gates, for a game. And the kids get to play one more game.
Popcorn and hot dogs.
Yeah. And everybody wins. And, it's happy. So, so the college football is finally adopting that. The Big Ten was the first one to say they were going to do that. And the Pac-12 is like, hey, that seems like a good idea. So everybody's going to get 7 games one way or another. And then I don't know if you saw this, but there are no longer any bowl requirements.
Yeah. WC can keep that bowl streak alive no matter what happens. We can keep that bowl
streak alive even if we're terrible. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, come on. I want to see an 0-7 or 0-8 whatever bowl team this year. Let's make it happen.
Yeah.
Not WSU, but any team.
I imagine most of the bowl games will just go on as scheduled because the vast majority of them are ESPN properties.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how many people know this, but ESPN owns most of the bowl games.
90+% of them.
Yeah. Because when you're like, there are too many bowl games, if you're that person,
then you should stop watching them.
Anyway, yeah, then don't watch them. But if you're like, there's too many bowl games, well, the reason why there's so many bowl games is simply that ESPN's like, hey, more football means more football on TV, so we're gonna own and basically run these bowl games, and put them on TV, and the payouts are really modest and whatever. So I'm sure ESPN fought pretty hard to make sure that all these bowl games are played. And I'm sure I'm curious.
Can we just go to they probably won't have the Bahamas Bowl in the Bahamas. I don't know.
Right. But what about there's 18 bowls in Florida, right? And Florida will let people show up. So
yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I don't know. I would assume that they're still going to try and follow the tie-ins. Not sure how you pull that off, but
I don't know. I guess
I guess they would still follow the same thing. Put them in order of record, but it just means that there's going to be a lot of options to reach down and choose someone different.
You know what? This will probably be the kind of the truest division championship you can get, because we'll have the closest to a division championship. But I still kind of I kind of wish they would just undivision the thing and just do, as many conference games as possible and just say the top 2 go to the championship, whatever. And then you don't have this shitty Pac-12 South team making the conference championship all the time, which we've had quite often.
Yes.
Which I don't know. I don't think that'll happen this year, but I'm sure that. So obviously they're playing the conference championship because they're hoping that a Pac-12 team can still have a chance at the college football playoff. I guess you're looking at Oregon in that case. So if they can, so a team like that can run the table, which is a lot easier to do in 6 games, 7 games, obviously. But it'll be interesting to see just what the football's like with, I guess they're getting roughly the same amount of camp, even less camp than they usually get before the season. It'll be interesting.
I think it'll be about the same.
Yeah.
They're taking, 6 full weeks to kind of get this thing rocking.
Yeah, and usually camp starts I guess 4 weeks before the first game, 3 or 4, depending on if you got a week 0 game.
Yeah. So I think it'll be about the same. The big difference maker here, and they did say this. They said this in the press release, and it's. I don't think it's total bullshit. Is that really things changed. They They felt better about the potential for, essentially heart damage, right? They felt better that was not as much of a risk as what they initially thought.
Yep.
And then the other part was the testing. They've got this new testing protocol coming, and it's a different kind of test. It's an antigen test, and which is I guess cheaper to administer and has its own sort of set of issues. But what it does do is it allows them to detect the presence of the virus before the person can transmit, I think is the theory. That, so they could test negative one day, test positive the next day. The theory is if they tested negative the day before and then they test positive for the antigen, they would really just be detecting a small amount of the antigen, which would indicate that the virus had really just been very newly, sort of introduced to the person. And if you can quarantine them at that point, then they're hopefully not contagious. Like they haven't been contagious up until that point. So, I don't know. Maybe it's all a bunch of bullshit. I have no idea because I'm not a scientist. But it seems like it's a better plan than what these other schools that we already referenced. Have been going ahead with, which is essentially the cross your fingers and hope and pray plan.
Yeah, and I mean it's still a little bit cross some fingers and hope and pray. It's just
definitely a little.
Well, these other teams have played games, and I'm sure, and it was fine, and so that I think that probably plays a part in it too. You've seen dozens of college football games happen, and only one or two of them maybe have been transmission vectors, but
yeah.
But yeah, again, if you're taking your most precautions, they're obviously only playing conference teams. In a lot of states that have kind of stricter, guidelines than other states. So obviously, we've seen fans in some stadiums, and that will not be happening. Sadly,
no.
Not like I know there would have been, if WSU could have filled that 25%, there would have been, just from the Pullman people, been in there.
Oh yeah.
Which we have found. I've seen. You and I have watching soccer matches and different things. Like even just like we watched a Borussia Dortmund match where there was, I think, like 10,000, maybe like 8,000 people in an 80,000 seat stadium.
Yeah.
But even those 8,000 people made such a difference in noise versus a completely empty stadium. It was. Yeah. I mean, I guess it's still 8,000 people, which can be very loud.
Right.
Especially in an arena, which is just kind of bouncing things back off of each other. But yeah, it's, I'm still bummed I can't go watch Cougar football this year, but I probably wouldn't have anyway, to be honest, even if given the opportunity, given that WSU's rates of infection have been pretty high. Probably not a place, because we had talked about just going there for a weekend, kind of like you said, just to, go to Pullman, like when there was not going to be a football season, just to support some businesses. But,
right.
When Pullman's one of the highest infection rates in the country, maybe not going to do
maybe
that.
not.
But I do think, with the testing and this rapid testing and stuff, they can probably control the spread to, because they're getting tested far more than your average human being.
Yeah, and the penalty for testing positive is pretty damn steep.
Yeah, what is it?
Well, here's the thing. I didn't read the Pac-12 that closely. I know the Big Ten said you test positive once, you're 21 days, bang, you're gone.
Yeah, basically that. Yeah, that's like a 3-game suspension, basically.
Essentially, yeah. So, which again, I think is basically it's the antigen test where it's like, okay, so the moment you test positive, you are not yet contagious. So they're trying to kind of plan out for this, how long you're contagious kind of deal. And there you go. So I imagine the Pac-12 is going to be, similar, right? And so if the penalty is that steep for testing positive, then, players I would think are going to be pretty cautious, although, who knows? I mean, We don't really know,
I don't know.
what they're going to choose to do
18 to
because
22-year-olds,
college
so.
kids are they're going to do what they
Who
do.
knows, man?
They're not the best at risk assessment. So the one thing that kind of makes me feel like maybe this isn't as I don't know, like, so when we talked, a few weeks ago, it was kind of like, yay, football's here. Like for me, it's been hard for me to weigh, especially for college, hard for me to weigh my desire for sports and watching sports and sort of the feeling of, hey, we're in the middle of a freaking pandemic, right? And the one thing I guess that makes me feel a little bit, I don't know if better is the right word, but I guess maybe comfortable is a better word. And I'm curious how you feel about this as well. But, one thing we've sort of figured out over this last month or so is that while these COVID cases have exploded on various college campuses, hospitalizations have not. So we have a pretty good sense that while yes, the disease is bad and it sucks, and sometimes even 20-somethings that catch it have pretty adverse effects for a while, they are not dying. And so it sort of reinforces this idea that what we're really trying to do is contain the spread from them to more vulnerable people.
Right.
And I guess what we've seen is that on college campuses have done a pretty damn good job of managing both outbreaks among 20-somethings and, basically containing the spread from those people to the people who might really be hurt by it.
Right.
Obviously, if I was a 20-something, I still don't think I'd want to get it. But, I guess, if we figured out, or at the very least, if it certainly looks like, 20-somethings getting it, maybe isn't the end of the world as long as we can keep it from spreading to, 50, 60, 70-somethings. I guess I feel a little more comfortable about, I guess I feel a lot more comfortable about college players playing, and particularly with the testing protocols that will be in place for the Pac-12.
Yeah. I think that's obviously a big part where there's no fans. You don't. They don't want fans flocking to Pullman and Corvallis and these other, I guess Boulder, and although that's a bigger city than those. But just don't, these college campuses where there might be higher infection rates. You don't want the older fans there taking it back to their place, where they live and all that stuff. But yeah, it does make you feel a little better that maybe those kids aren't at high of risk for something as maybe the adults would be. It's still not, it's funny. I think I told you earlier that I was like, I guess I'm a little excited. I'm not sure. I think like maybe just the weight of everything is kind of preventing me, but I've really been really enjoying watching soccer. I've been really enjoying watching the Seahawks. I've been really enjoying watching the NBA and all that. And so I haven't watched much college football since it came back, but I have watched a little. I think probably once the games actually hit, I'll be really into it. It's just kind of like I don't believe it yet, and I just don't want there to be like adverse effects, especially for the athletes that are participating. Long-term like damage and things like that. I don't want them to be put at higher risk, but at the same time, you got to kind of believe actually they may be at as long as they follow the protocols, they're probably going to be at a lower risk than a lot of people just because they are being tested so rigorously. They're going to know if the people around them have it. They're going to know if they have it. They're going to be treated immediately. They're going to know if they have it before the symptoms even set in. They're going to get the best treatment for it. So hopefully that'll lead to, if there is COVID infections, that it leads, to some of the best outcomes possible, just because they'll catch it so early, and
Yep.
and just you got to believe that it's just as long as these protocols are followed, there shouldn't be, there can still be infection, but there shouldn't be mass infection of like entire teams, which we've seen in some programs. So hopefully this sort of testing will prevent that, because obviously the more infections you have, the more likely that one of them will be a more significant significantly
Sure.
negative outcome.
Yep.
But yeah, and obviously a lot of these kids, they're athletes, and even some of the damage that can be done in COVID, to your internal organs and to your lungs, to your heart, whatever, that's scary for them. But maybe it's not, like you said earlier, maybe it's not as dangerous as we thought to these younger kids, that because we're mostly comparing it to what it's doing to older adults. And so maybe it's safer for these kids, and maybe it's okay that they're playing, and I just need to wrap my head around that and just enjoy Cougar football again. And that's just kind of like a, it's like a journey I have to go on before I can be as excited as everyone is. Like I'm still, we can get into this later. I'm still probably like a little more excited for basketball, maybe because it's farther out, and maybe I don't know. Maybe it's just fewer athletes and fewer people interacting with each other. I don't know.
And maybe it's, not like you went to a lot of basketball games either, right? Because we've talked about that. Like a lot of the emotion you feel about the season is, going to Pullman for games, and it's not like you were going to many basketball games anyway.
Okay, therapist Jeff, I'm on the couch.
But
here.
I'm just saying, maybe that's the deal. You're used to watching those games on your couch.
Yeah, it's true.
And sitting there with, with Slack open and with Google Hangouts open and with us, texting back and forth. So, for me, like the big thing was we just didn't know, and it didn't feel like it was worth the risk for something where we don't know. And at this point, I don't think we still really know much, obviously, but also at the same time, you mentioned that they're probably as safe as anybody. And the incentive, to stay eligible is a pretty big one.
Yeah.
That's, if you're going to get, basically knocked out of action for a few weeks just by testing positive, that's a pretty big incentive to make sure and handle your business. And, so hopefully, ultimately, I hope it all just, results in, low or zero infection rates on the team, which is not just good for the team, but is good for the community. I mean, let's be honest about that.
Yeah.
Fewer COVID tests with the football team means there's, fewer COVID cases in Pullman. So hopefully, that's all good for everybody. And hopefully, it turns out that, people who catch it don't really suffer any tremendous long-term effects. I know that, people have mentioned, having effects for months afterwards at times, but hopefully there's no, long-term, lasting other kind of damage that we just don't know of yet. And, I don't know. I mean, at some point I do sort of understand the people who say, kind of at some point, you kind of got to live life. And, once you've mitigated the risk to a certain point, you just kind of got to go. And, I don't know where that line is. And, I think reasonable minds can definitely differ on where that line is, but I think they've done a good job of at least approaching a line where people who are comfortable accepting a certain amount of risk, that the risk is down to a level that makes that maybe worth it and makes it make some sense. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but
yeah, it does. Like I said, I think you're probably a little right that part of it is I don't get to go to the games, and so it doesn't feel quite as real and quite as exciting. But it is exciting still. I think maybe we can talk about the football team.
Should we take a break first?
Yeah, maybe we'll actually talk about the football team playing football. I don't know.
Ooh, like like it's going to be real or something.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. Let's take a break, and then we'll find out if we can do that.
We're back.
Well, we always tell people we're going to talk about the stuff, but then we talk about beer, so let's just do that. I don't want to disappoint them.
We talk about beer. Well, why change things now? Some things are always going to be the same.
Hey,
this is one of them.
In these difficult times, we need
That's right.
some
In these
sense
unprecedented
of normalcy.
times, don't you want to be able to count on something like us teasing something you actually want to listen to and then talking about beer?
Yeah.
You can count on us.
Well, because they're skipping past it, and they're going to be mad if we're not. They're like, wait.
Absolutely. They're going to hit the fast forward button and then be like, wait a second.
Minutes.
Yeah, how far back do I have to go?
Yeah. We don't want to disappoint those people.
Nope.
So, Jeff.
We don't.
I know what you're drinking, but what are you drinking?
Yeah, I am drinking a beautiful beer from Holy Mountain Brewery called People Power. And it is a lovely pale ale that is dedicated to the number of people, many people, many of our black brothers and sisters who have been killed in the name of racism. So the label is printed with a ton of names, going all the way back to Emmett Till, Medgar Evers, Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, and then kind of all the way up. The last name on here is Chris Beatty. George Floyd is on here. Rayshard Brooks is on here.
Breonna Taylor is on
so,
there.
Yeah, Breonna Taylor's on here. Eric Garner's on here. Trayvon Martin's on here. So anyway, it is a beer where the proceeds, or at least some of the proceeds, I don't remember which, but at least some of the proceeds.
I believe it was
20%.
20%.
20%. There we go. So 20% of the proceeds going to the ACLU, an organization that is near and dear to me. Both for the work that they're doing on behalf of Black Lives Matter, and also the way they fight for free speech. Me being a journalist, having a journalism degree, obviously free speech is also very important to me. So the ACLU fighting for people's rights, fighting for their civil liberties. Definitely love the work they do, and I'm happy to support them. And by the way, the beer kicks ass, so it's kind of a win-win.
Yeah, and I'll say that that beer is kind of part of a series of beers that a lot of brewers are doing, and it was started by Threes Brewing, which is in Brooklyn, New York. I've been to that brewery. It's a pretty good brewery.
Right.
Yeah, I think they're known for some really good lagers and a lot of their stuff. They got a nice tap room. They got good food. I definitely was pretty non-sober when I made it there. After I think I was at Other Half before that, so I took an Uber on up there and tried to eat some food and sober up, and then had some more beer. But anyways, so they are the ones that started this, and then Holy Mountain is one of the breweries that participate in it. Much like the Black is Beautiful beers that I think we talked about earlier on the program. I think we drank that Wingman one, if I want to.
Yep.
Remember?
Yep.
So it's kind of in a similar vein where it's intended to generate donations for worthy causes, and I'll co-sign with you on the ACLU. I know maybe some of you you'll see some absurd looking lawsuit that ACLU files, but and you might think, oh, this is kind of over the line, but honestly, that's part of their work, is they have to make sure that the civil liberties of everyone are protected, even when it kind of looks absurd on the surface. A lot of times there's a reason for it, and I encourage you to kind of look into why some of these things that look ridiculous on first, but there's a lot of just other things that ACLU does. If we don't have these sort of organizations protecting people who cannot afford to protect themselves legally, then the type of injustice that we see will only be worse. So I know that there's people that are listening to us that will roll their eyes at the ACLU, but whatever. They're good. I'm sorry. They just are.
Yep. No, it's a great organization that does great things, and
Holy Mountain is a great brewery with some just great people running it. I can confirm that, and this is totally in line with their things they've done before. They've had a couple weekends where they donated a certain percentage of everything to Black Lives Matter charities and things like that. So I was pretty stoked when I found myself in Seattle and I had some time to go drive by the brewery and do some drive-through pickup. I was excited. You got some for me too, so
I did. I got you a shirt, and
yeah,
you got all kinds of cool. We got all kinds of cool stuff.
Well, awesome. I'm going up Seattle tomorrow, so you'll have to let me know if you want anything. I'm going to get my Floodland beer. So.
Haha. That's also awesome beer.
Yeah, I got
if you can get it.
I got a Magnum in this round of allocation.
Dear God.
Well, I had a buddy that told me if you post on Instagram that you're drinking one of the Magnums, you'll probably get another one in the next round of allocation. And so for my sister's 30th birthday, which was this past weekend,
saw that.
I pulled out my last Floodland Magnum and we drank that, and I posted on Instagram, and sure enough, when those allocations came out on, I think it was Tuesday, I got another Magnum. So and I ask for them every single time, and the last two ones I've gotten is after I posted that I was drinking one. So that's that was a good tip from my buddy Eric, and it's been useful. Useful for me to spend a whole lot of money on a giant bottle of beer, which per ounce ends up being
a giant bottle of beer.
Yeah, per ounce ends up being not a good deal in any way. Like, it ends up being more than the smaller bottles of beer per ounce, but it's just the fun of it. Like when I pulled that out, like when my sister came over and I pulled that out to show her that's what we were going to have for her birthday, she was so excited. Like, oh my God, it's a Magnum. Oh, it's a Floodland Magnum. Like, because obviously you're getting this rare, like, size of a beer. And on top of that, it's like this, impossible to get brewery who I'm just fortunate enough to, like, be a member of, that I get the beer, and which is like a humble brag, of course. But yeah, so she's like, I didn't even know that Floodland had Magnums. And I'm like, yep, they do. And we're drinking one for your birthday. And
that's fantastic.
It was delicious. But yeah, I am drinking a beer from a Tacoma brewery. It is fresh hop season.
Yes, it is. So no fresh hop festival this year, though.
Yeah, no fresh hop festival. That would be COVID vector.
That's so sad too, because like last year was the first time I went, and I was like,
and we had so much fun.
Yes, we did, and I was just like, I could do this. Like, this should be annual. Like, I should do this every year.
We do that Single Hill podcast every year.
Oh,
I picked up a Single
Hill. And then go to Sports Center and just listen to your basically your brother-in-law talk shit about UW fans and almost get in a fight, and it was fantastic.
Yes.
It was so much fun.
He is very much of the, cares about WSU sports, but cares probably more about hating the Huskies than anything else, which is fantastic.
Let me just say, Chris is a delightful person, so it's just like, it was fun. It was a lot of fun, but
yeah, so
this year, man.
Not this year. No fresh hop festival.
Not this year. Anyway, fresh hop for you. You're drinking fresh hop tonight.
Yeah, I'm drinking Fresher Yesterday from Sig Brewing out of Tacoma, one of the newest breweries out of Tacoma. I think I've had them on the podcast before. One of the other important Jeffs in my life, Jeff Stokes, is the former head brewer of Three Magnets, now the head brewer of Sig. Been cranking out a lot of good beer. They have really good food at that. We actually had dinner there for my sister's birthday, and they have pizza, but they have my sister had lobster pizza, and like I had just like I had beef Wellington meatballs. Like they got some damn good food there. But this is a Strata Fresh Hop Hazy IPA. So Strata is a type of hop. I'll read the description. This beer was better yesterday. All jokes aside, please drink this beer as fresh as you can. The hops in this can are volatile and want to be drank ASAP. Focusing on the fantastic Strata hop, we harvested both freshly picked whole cone wet hops as well as the same of pelletized Strata hops to create a melange of the freshest hops possible, all courtesy of Roy Farms. So yeah, this is it's a interesting fresh hop IPA is not my like most favorite style, but it's just like, hey, it's seasonal and it's different. This one's very, very light. It's mostly aroma driven, almost no bitterness, which is pretty interesting. It's a little hazy. Like it's definitely hazy in appearance, but it's not like that thick body. Like it's got a kind of a lighter body. It's definitely easy drinking. It's got a really cool label, which I'll probably tweet out later. It's like looks like meat packaging in a store, but it's hops. And it's pretty good, pretty damn good. Jeff's a great brewer. Another beer I got from them is their soup, salad, and pilsners, which is an Italian pilsner, which is really tasty. But yeah, so fresher yesterday. This is good. And Sig is good. I highly recommend them if you're in the Tacoma area, or Seattle area, whatever. Just come on down. It's like a block and a half from E9's new brewery. So, and then it's like a couple blocks away from Blackfeet Brewing, and not far from Seven Seas' location in Tacoma. So it's what Tacoma has established a brewery district in where breweries can basically open up there. Makes it easier for them. So there's more and more breweries coming in. Sig is the newest one, and
better for all of us who like to walk from brewery to brewery to drink.
Well, yeah, my goal was like we would start at Sig and then go to E9 and then walk basically down the hill to the Rage concert in April. That because Sig was supposed to be open by then, so we could have like done those two.
Still
breweries.
Might happen.
Yeah, maybe
eventually
2028, like we'll be.
Those tickets we bought. We're going to be 50 years. You're going to be taking me on my 50th birthday.
Yeah.
It's time for Rage. We finally get to go.
Well, there might be a lot to rage about by then, but
yeah.
Yeah, so beer. How about football?
Football. This is our chance, Craig. This is our chance to open with the Apple Cup. This is it.
Please.
This is the time. The time is now.
Obviously, there's a chance that the actual schedule by the time you're listening to this will be out, but while we're recording, the actual schedule is
there's
not
no
out.
schedule yet.
Like, please, can we just get that out of the way early? I don't care. Like, this whole last game of the season Apple Cup thing ain't working out for us. So let's change it up. Let's move it around, and let's. I can't remember who suggested it. Like, just do the rivalry games right off the bat, and that would be great. Like, let's build some interest in the sport with just rivalry games first week. Like, come on, let's just get that out of the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Like if you want to storm onto the scene, like for real, if you want to just like kick down the door of the college football season and be like, Pac-12, here we are, let's fucking go. Like, let's start with a rivalry game. Not just us. I mean, USC, UCLA, and Oregon State, and Cal Stanford. I mean, let's do it. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
I mean, look, Fox isn't getting their Black Friday Apple Cup anymore anyway, so whatever. Let's do it.
If they somehow figure out how to put a Black Friday Apple Cup into this schedule anyway, I'm going to be so mad.
They're like, no. The Apple Cup will not be the last game. It will not be the first game. It will be the third game.
It's going to be
on
Black Friday. Which actually, it doesn't matter because you don't have to go to the game, but still, it's
but still. That would be hilarious. Just like one, giant middle finger back at us finally. Like, you thought you were getting out of this? No. Nope. Still going to be on Black Friday, assholes.
Hey, our guy Brian is hyped, man. He just tweeted 43 days until Cougar football.
Oh my
all
gosh,
caps.
yeah. Brian Anderson, man, that guy. We should have had him on tonight. He would have brought the excitement for us.
Yeah, him and Jesse, I think are the probably the biggest football nerds in the group, and they're hyped. They're super hyped. I'm getting more hyped the more I talk about it. To be honest, I'll tell you what really gets me hyped is when I look at the WSU roster on WSUCougars.com is that apparently, Tay Martin still plays for us because he's number one, right?
Can he still come back? Can he come back?
He can still come back.
Just kidding.
Just kidding.
I don't know. I'm not really playing at Oklahoma State yet, so I don't know. No, it's it's everybody's going to have issues. I mean, look, you mentioned Oregon as a potential contender, but Oregon had, I can't remember, but it was more than a couple dudes who opted out, including their, all everything left tackle. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe some of those guys come back. I mean, the NCAA has not yet, and this was sort of another thing that came up was, okay, so if the guys in the Big Ten and the Pac-12 opted out and signed with agents and started getting ready for the draft, now that their teams are playing again, are you going to let them come back? And the NCAA has been silent on that issue so far, but I guess that's going to be an interesting thing to watch. It's still got maybe another week or two to work itself out if the NCAA feels like reversing course. But I don't know. My guess is the NCAA will just be silent on it, and the guys who turn pro are just gonna, they're just gonna stay turned pro and whatever. But what I'm driving at is it's all gonna be crazy. Like it's just, I mean, look, like 7 games, like that's and really 6 games to determine who wins, who goes to the championship game. So,
right.
I mean, it's going to be super, super, super weird. I mean, think about no non-conference games.
You can just get hot you can just get hot and
I mean, how many teams win 5 out of 6 games at some point in the season, right? So everybody's going to have weirdness. There's going to be weirdness. There's going to be, players out because of COVID. There's going to be, there's just going to be all kinds of weird shit happening. So yeah, I wouldn't be shocked at all if something super bizarre happened, and why not us, right?
Well, I do think the longer prep time going into the season than even summer camp, or they call it fall camp, would have been is good for us because we totally missed spring ball because we didn't even get any practices in because WSU starts at spring ball so late because of weather,
right? And you still got a QB situation starting from scratch.
I get Nick Rolovich talked about that on the podcast with or the coach's show with Matt Chazanow today. How he's going to push those guys and he expects it to be close, and so you got Gunnar Cruz and you got Cameron Cooper and maybe the freshman gets in there, but who knows? But it should be interesting. So like from what you've seen at practice, what you've seen in the depth chart, like you tend to think Cameron Cooper is in the lead, but like this is a different coach, this is a different offense, there's different requirements. They're looking at it with fresh eyes. They've never seen Cameron Cooper play. They don't have tape on him. They've never seen Gunnar Cruz play. They've never seen any of these guys play. So it'll be interesting to see. We've obviously been surprised in recent years of who takes the job. Obviously, we were all expecting Gage Gabrud to be the starting quarterback last year, and then Anthony Gordon comes and tears it up. So, obviously, it's going to be a QB battle. I think that ultimately will be good for these guys because they're all pretty inexperienced. They need kind of some pressure to perform. And but yeah, I think I would tend to think Cameron Cooper as the oldest player, the most highly rated out of high school, all that nonsense, like is the leader, but you just never know. And then you go on from there. again, even with departure of Tay Martin, I think there's still whoever gets to be quarterback is going to have quite a few weapons to play with.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I do wonder. So I wonder if the nature of the season changes any of the thought process for decision making. So, like, for example, if you sit there, okay, so if you're thinking, who's going to start at quarterback, right? So part of that thought process in a normal season is, okay, so it's a 12-game season, right? Do I pick the person who I think has maybe the higher ceiling and give them a few games to kind of work out the kinks against the non-conference competition, that sort of thing. And then, thinking, they'll have it all kind of ready to go by about game 4, game 5. And they'll, by the end of the season, they're going to be a monster. Okay. So I wonder if, with 7 games, if maybe that calculus changes a little bit, if maybe you think, okay, so it's got to be whoever is ready to play right now. Mm-hmm. There's no room for, hey, maybe we lose a game to Houston, maybe we lose a game to Utah State, but hey, we can still go win the Pac-12, right?
Right.
I mean, this is like, if you lose a game, now it could also end up being a totally weird thing where, some team that loses 2 games or 3 games is, who knows? But what we do know is that, obviously every game is magnified when you're only talking 6 games. So do you pick someone who you feel like is a little more ready to go, out of the gate? I mean, like, for example, South Carolina seemed to do that, right? I mean, they picked they didn't go with Ryan Helinski as their quarterback, their starting quarterback. They instead chose to go with, the grad transfer from Colorado State, which seemed sort of strange, but the offensive coordinator there was from Colorado State. So it was kind of like, familiarity with the system, lots of experience. This season could be, super weird. So let's just go with the guy who maybe is going to be a little more steady. Right. So I wonder, and not that WSU has a guy like that sort of teed up and obvious, like there's not a Gage Gabrud in that room. But at the same time, I kind of wonder if, that maybe like, for example, you mentioned Delora, right? The freshman, I kind of think like this would seem to be more or less disqualifying for a freshman.
Yeah.
Like maybe not, but it sure seems to me like you don't want to be like rolling with a guy who's never played college football, for a 6, basically a 6-game sprint to try and
never
win
been in college football weight room.
Yeah. And, and not that the other 2 guys have all that experience either, with Cruz and Cooper, but at least they've been around. At least they have some kind of equity, and maybe they're not going to be as weirded out by the whole environment with no fans and all that stuff. So I don't know. If I was a coach, that's maybe how I would think of it, but who knows? I mean, Rolovich has obviously got his own idea of what's important. It seems to me the most important thing would be someone who's kind of, at the very least, maybe their ceiling isn't as high 10 games from now, but maybe they're going to give you a little bit more in games 1, 2, and 3.
Let's not forget Will Heckman too.
He didn't even Rolovich didn't even mention him today when he was talking about the quarterbacks.
So
he did mention another walk-on. I don't know. I forget his name.
Heckman, who's
I don't really care.
On his 4th school, he's a journeyman. But yeah, he is on scholarship. Or no, wait, is he not on scholarship? Is Heckman on scholarship?
I think he's a walk-on.
Yeah, he's a walk-on. Yeah.
Yeah.
But with this, obviously quarterback's insanely important, but we're just gonna have to see what happens. We got quarterback has Renard Bell, Travell Harris, Max Borghi, Calvin Jackson, Jameer Calvin. No shortage of good players to give the ball to, and I think that offensive line will be, fine. Like we've got a million bodies at least.
Yeah.
So,
let's hope 5 of them can
five
play.
of them are decent, So
Yeah.
I mean, what about this? We got 2 kickers on the roster. Who's going to be kicking? I don't know. Like, we got a Janikowski, we got a Mazza. I don't know. Like, that's the real. That's
I
what
think
people
Blake
want to hear
Mazza's
about.
probably pretty secure there. I think he's all right.
But what
that
about
guy's okay?
Yeah. What about that defense though?
They'll probably still suck.
Yeah, I think so.
But maybe that's the silver lining on all this. Like you're just gonna take this first season and you're just gonna throw it in the trash anyway if it doesn't really work out. So
yeah, you got a new. I guess back to the offense. They're learning an entirely new offense in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
That's there was no spring ball
with no soft landing.
No soft landing. This is a very timing based offense. It's gonna be a challenge. That's why hey, we get blown out by UW anyway. Put that one first. Let that be. I know. Sorry if some of you aren't as defeatist as we are with the UW game, but even with a new coach.
Let's be honest. First game of the year is probably going to be our best shot. Let's just be real.
No, they have a new coach too. Yeah,
they have a new coach. We got a new coach. We're who knows what's going to happen with COVID testing. Let's just play them first game of the year. Maybe half their team is out with COVID, and
Jesus.
Maybe we'll only lose by a touchdown.
Maybe half their team is out. Okay, I'm going to say if that's the case, that game is not happening. But maybe it just goes on anyway.
Probably not. Probably not, but
maybe half their team is out with COVID, and we're just like, let's do it anyway.
Maybe we'd have a chance.
Anyway.
That's all I'm saying is maybe we'd have a chance.
And WSU's like, no, we are playing this game. We don't care if you only have 50 players.
Like the SEC did, their minimum is 53. Like they said, you have to. They did it like an NFL.
Yeah,
roster.
where did they get that number from?
You got to have 53 people active on game day, and they have to be scholarship athletes.
Like any school
otherwise you can't play.
Wouldn't just lie to make that happen.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. So
all the torn ACLs are suddenly healed.
Yeah.
they're active. They're suited up.
But it's definitely a little wild looking at the NFL right now, though. I mean, maybe it's not more than normal, but it sure seems like more injuries than normal.
It feels like it. It definitely
feels
does.
like it. I don't know if it's true or not.
Yeah, it's not. I don't know if it's the data would bear that out, but it definitely feels like.
Seems like it. So I don't know. Keep an eye on that too. But yeah, defense will probably still be terrible. But maybe not. I don't know. Who knows? Perhaps not. And maybe, look, we joked about Tay Martin, but there were other people who put their name in the transfer portal, including Cosmas Queedy. He hasn't, at least that
maybe
I've
he comes
seen,
back.
It hasn't been reported that he has landed somewhere. So maybe some of these guys who transferred. I mean, I feel confident saying Cassidy Woods will not be back, but I think it seems like some other people it might make some sense for them to come back and play. And even if they have an intention of transferring, I don't know that it really honestly hurts anything for them to come back.
Well, it wouldn't
and
make
play,
that much of a difference. So,
I think, I don't know. Have you seen anything from the NCAA sort of clarifying eligibility with,
No.
players who play in this shortened season? Are they basically allowing them still an extra? I know they were allowing them an extra year of eligibility. I don't know. It's going to be something to keep an eye on, I guess.
I have not seen that, and NCAA, it could be out, but I wouldn't be surprised they were a little slow on that.
The NCAA seems to really just kind of be sitting this one out right now.
Yeah.
And kind of letting all the dust settle before they figure all this out.
Yep.
And it bears repeating, by the way, with everyone. It's really important to remember that the NCAA, their influence on FBS football is actually really minimal.
Yep.
It basically boils down to enforcement. That's about it.
Yeah, I saw someone tweet something about I don't know what the NCAA is going to say about this bowl eligibility. I'm like, they don't have any say in it. Like,
they
that
don't
team
get to
can
say
go,
anything.
like, a 2-win team can go play a bowl game, and the NCAA has no way of stopping that. Like, other than, like, governing if the players are eligible. They don't.
Yeah.
The NCAA has nothing to do with the football schedule. Like, they have nothing. They don't get any money from the college football playoff. Like, it's not theirs. Like,
they don't run it. They have no part of it whatsoever. Yep. So I think the NCAA kind of at the end will, maybe come in and say, yeah, well, okay, this is how it's going to work out eligibility wise and, rules and that kind of stuff. So I don't know. Hopefully it's enough that there's enough incentive for some of those guys to maybe come back, particularly Quede. I think that he's a guy who could make a pretty big difference for the defense.
Just a great story,
given
too.
And given how thin they are and on the defensive line and everything else, I think having him around would be a real benefit. So hopefully he's able to kind of make his way back and it's not personal and, because he's not playing this year. He's not playing this year somewhere else.
Yep.
So at this point, I mean, you would have had to, transfer when Tay Martin transferred in order to play this fall as somewhere else.
Yeah, absolutely a guy that we loved having on the team too, and just a guy you want to be successful.
Yeah,
and
absolutely want to root for a guy.
Yeah, so if it's better somewhere else, fine. But if it's just leaving to find an opportunity and you actually can do that opportunity here, that would be great too. But yeah, so and honestly, he's good. So
yep. We like good players.
Yeah, especially on the defensive line. We need it. Well, especially at every level of the defense.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Sure.
How many wins in a 7-game season?
3.
Yeah, that's where
there you go.
That's where I'm at too.
Do you like that? Decisive, bold.
Yeah.
3. Would you be okay with 3 and 4? I'd be okay with 3 and 4.
I'd be okay with 3 and 4. Okay,
let me ask you this. All right, so let me put it back on you. Like, what result would piss you off? Like, what result would make you, upset?
I don't want to lose to Oregon State.
How many wins?
Oh, what
How
result
low would it
in
have
wins? 2 would be a bummer. But not it's like 2 and 5, 3 and 4. It's like, I think 1 win would suck.
One win would be terrible.
2 and 5 would suck too, because that means you're like, if you're talking about 7 Saturdays, we're sitting down watching Cougar football,
right?
And most of them we're just watching a loss. Like, that's not fun.
Now, how much is that changed if? Okay, so let me just kind of throw out scenarios really quick. Like, how much does that change if, say, they look interesting while they do it, right? Because we all know.
So you're
this,
talking like 52-49 loss.
Yeah,
versus a 10-7 loss.
Right. We all know this is going to be a transition year, no matter what. Like, even before all the COVID stuff. Like, we knew that, there was a chance this was going to be pretty weird anyway. And there was going to be a transition, and maybe the results weren't going to be great. Maybe this is going to be, the first year we miss a bowl game in some time. I think we all sort of understood that was a possibility. So if they go through this season and if they win, say, 2 games, but, maybe 2 or 3 other games, they look pretty good, but, maybe just some mistakes cost them. And I guess maybe not unlike last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, if we take out the non-conference games last year, they went
3 and 6.
3 and 6, right?
3 and 7. Well,
right.
Yeah, okay. Well,
but 3 and 6 in the Pac-12, right? So, that's the kind of season that you're talking about here, more or less, in 6 games. So, or 7 games.
So 3 and 4 would be an improvement over last year.
Right. So and 2 and 5 would be something approximating last season, right? Yeah. So if the results are similar, with a new coach. Does that still feel pretty awful, or does that feel better? Like what are you thinking about that?
I'm thinking it's gonna feel worse because we don't have those kind of padded wins at the start. Like, I mean, maybe
so.
Like
Just the overall ending is gonna.
And I'm not saying necessarily for me, but I'll say for like fans, like,
Okay.
Because I mean, we've learned. Obviously, we learned in the Leach era, do not write in these games as wins, obviously. But at least in the last couple of years, we got the wins, and then we were able to pad the schedule and move on from there.
Right.
And this year was looking like a year we could probably do that again. Like, obviously, Utah State and Houston's a whole different ball game from, you could play some worse teams obviously in there, but Houston wasn't looking very good this year, and Utah State wasn't looking very good, and even on the road, like, you were kind of thinking they could probably still pull it out just on talent alone. So yeah, if you're not getting that 2-1 or 3-0 in conference play, which you can add on to the 3 wins or 2 wins that you're getting in league play, you don't get those like happy like memories. Like the conference play, when you don't start out by losing to an FCS team, can kind of like build up kind of some fun in the season before you get to like the conference slog of getting your ass kicked.
Sure.
But now you're just going straight into, and you only get the conference slog. So yeah, it could be tough. Like it like 2-5, yes, is very similar to what they did last year, 3-6, but it will feel very different. Because last year they went 3-6, but they also got that win against Oregon State. They got bowl eligibility, and they got to go to the bowl game. And people, me and BA and friends and people got to go to Phoenix and go to the Cheez-It Bowl, and we watched Pat McAfee be the MC, and it was fun and it was silly and whatever. And we got to to do all that, but like this year. Like, if you're we were 3-6, but we could still say we were 6-6. If you're 2-5, you're 2-5. There's no other rewriting that narrative with some cupcakes in the start of the year. So I think from an optics perspective for like Rolovich, it kind of sucks, like because. They could be good, but that would mean they are better than last year while losing a record-setting quarterback, while losing 2 like really good wide receivers, and returning a lot of the same really bad defense. And yes, like Dickert, it should be an improvement over our last defensive staff, and his staff should be an improvement, but it's not that easy to turn around a defense immediately, although he has like the type of defense he runs and in the past, like he has done well, but it's going to be hard for him in 6 weeks to turn it around. And it's just it's kind of a bummer from a first year coach perspective, to kind of as a way to start. You're really not getting the best situation where you can get those kind of padded wins in the schedule, because for some reason, like 4-8 would feel a lot better than 2-5, because you had 4 good days and 8 bad days. But a lot of this is like how many good memories you have and how many good feelings you have, and if you only have 2 for the whole entire year, that's not that fun. But yeah, and it's hard to believe that they're going to be better than that. They could be. Like, I think it really is. It comes down to defensive improvement. I think the offense is going to be worse because they're installing a new offense. And if the defense isn't better, then it's not going to be good. And so I don't know, like 2-5 would be disappointing, but also not unexpected. Right.
Yeah. You know what I just realized? I got to coordinate the whole Coug Center football preview now.
Oh, yeah. That's right. We have to do that. At least we got, hey, that's the nice thing about that. They give us a 6-week.
Yeah. I mean, I got time to put it together, but I'm still like, shit. I got to like do my job again. Damn it. It's more fun to get paid when you're not doing anything.
Yeah.
I can confirm that. I do that every summer. They keep sending me paychecks while I swim in the pool with my kids.
Lazy teacher.
I know. I'm paying for it right now. Let me tell you. Whoo! I forgot to tell you this. How about this? I got a card in the mail today for jury duty.
Fun.
What does civic duty look like right now? I don't even know. Do they jury duty by Zoom? Am I Zooming my jury duty? Or do I actually have to come to Tacoma?
Amanda's dad's got that recently too in Yakima, and we were wondering the same thing. Like what?
Because I'm like, normally, like most people, I would sort of try to get out of it. Or like in the last couple times I've gotten it, and it's been a while now, but the last couple times I've gotten it, I've put it off until the summer, and I've just done it during the summer because it's just easier that way. But then there's a part of me that's like, well, why am I don't want to give up part of my summer, and like at work, they have, jury duty leave, right? So if you get called to jury duty, it doesn't count against your sick leave or your personal days or anything. They just give you leave for jury duty. Okay, fine. But I'm also like, well, but it's a huge pain in the ass for a teacher to be gone from class because you still have to do all the prep work, right? Like, so it's not like you're not working. You still have to work. You just don't have, you're just not teaching classes. Well, our district is having substitute teachers host our Zoom meetings. So I'm sort of like, I don't know. Do I really want to put out, I don't know. Jury duty might not be the worst thing in the world right now. Somebody else can host these online meetings, and I'll go do jury duty.
Being a substitute Zoom teacher,
right?
It's already hard enough. Like you're already like against all odds and in the room.
Yeah,
substitute teacher.
Like I have tried to figure out what it is exactly they think they're expecting the subs to do, and I honestly am not sure because I don't know anybody who's used one yet. But I don't know. Like I'm still like, wow. I think the reasoning is my guess is it's like a seat time countable hours thing. Kids have to receive a certain number of hours of instruction in order to essentially for it to count. Right. Mm-hmm. And so that's my guess is, if there's not a sub and they're not coming to class, then they feel like they can't count those hours. So I think that's what they're doing, but at any rate, I still find it hilarious. Like it's, subs already have a pretty tough job being in a classroom. And like, I'm finding teaching online is, kind of a wreck. And I don't know how a sub's going to do with that, but maybe I'll find out and I'll just go to jury duty for a week. I don't know.
Hey dude, you got a civic duty, man.
I do. And listen, I don't mind doing jury duty. Like I said, I've never actually gotten out of jury duty. I've always just put it off till the summer. And then the last time I did it, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do that again because I just would rather have my summer. So, but then I didn't get called. I got called like 3 times in like a 5-year period. And it's probably been 10 years since I've been called. So my ticket was overdue.
I've never been called for jury duty.
Man, you're missing out, dude. You are missing out. I was this close to getting on a jury one time. Went through voir dire and all that and got picked for the jury and actually started the trial. And then we listened to, I don't know, a couple hours of testimony. And then they sent us back to the jury room. And then they were like, we don't need you anymore. See ya. And they don't tell you anything. Like that was like the worst part. I'm like, okay, I've heard like 2 hours of testimony. I want to know how this turned out. Like what happened? This guy, this dude sure seemed like he was driving drunk, like I was like listening to all the time. I wanted to know how it turned. It's like a story. It's like a book where you read like, the first third of the book and then They're like, never mind, you don't get to read the last 2/3. I'm like, but wait a second, I was actually interested in this story. So I never did find out what happened to the guy. Pretty sure he was guilty though.
Well, you know, he was at a trial, so
yeah.
Obviously.
Oh my gosh, Craig, I'm telling you, like, okay, so it was definitely a drunk driving trial. The evidence did not look good. And let's just say this guy did not look good. Okay. I'm like looking over at the defendant and I'm like, bro, I'm trying to keep an open mind, but you are not doing yourself any favors right now with the way you look. So yeah, it was an experience. I don't know. Although they're only calling me in for 1 week. I don't know if that's the new standard or not, because it was 2 weeks. The last few times I did it. So I don't know. I'll let you know what I decide. I'll probably do it.
You know, I hope you can still do the podcast while you're doing
Well, maybe I'll have some stories.
We actually have things to podcast about.
Yeah. Maybe I won't be able to talk about, if I get on a jury, I won't be able to talk about an active case, but
they would never find out. We'll just talk about it.
They'll be like, nobody listens to our podcast. They'll never know.
Wouldn't that be hilarious if somehow they found out? That
it would be hilarious.
Like,
you're off this jury. You
You're
talked
off
about it
this
on your
jury.
podcast. What are you talking about? How do you know? Go Cougs. Oh, wow. Oh, hey. I read Coug Center. What?
Yeah, it's just like the...
Because, by the way, that has happened before. Like just some rando looking at my credit card at a store and going, are you the Jeff Nusser that writes for Coug Center? And I'm like, oh my God, this is so weird. It's definitely weird.
Yes. Our like low level of mild fame is
I know.
very strange.
It will never, I'm not sure I will ever feel comfortable with that.
Yeah, I'm not even like, if I'm on a call for work and someone says something nice about me, like, so, oh, Craig did a good job on this. Like, I'm always just like, yeah, it's my job. It's fine. Like, whatever. Just stop complimenting me. Like, I don't want to hear your compliments. All right. But also don't say mean things to me either. I just don't want any feedback.
Yeah. Just don't say anything unless you're buying Craig a beer.
You can buy me a beer.
Just buy him a beer. Don't say anything. And there you go. Perfect.
No, actually, if you do listen to the podcast and you want to talk to me,
yes.
Feel free.
That's
totally
fine.
Yeah. I'm just a normal person, and I like talking about the Cougs.
Just a very tall normal person.
Yeah. Just don't be really disappointed when you ask me a question about WSU and my answer is terrible. You listen to the podcast, you should not be surprised. All right.
This was good.
Yeah, it's good. Football is happening again.
I will probably be so fired up when it starts. I'm not yet. I am not Brian Anderson right now, but I'm sure a month from now.
I don't know, man. Watching that Seahawks game on Sunday night, I was like, okay.
That's true, though.
So when
they stopped Cam Newton, I jumped out of my chair and I flexed and I screamed and then I stopped and I thought, oh my God, did I just do that? Like I was like, wait a minute. I'm not that into sports right now, or I'm not that excited about sports right now, but I am. I totally am. And it's, it's definitely, now that it's funny when it was gone, it's weird. Like, I don't know. I would say that I missed it a lot while it was gone. But now that a lot of it is back, it's like, oh yeah, that's why I like it.
Well, yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I've just, like, I can't, that we've adopted Dortmund and we've adopted Tottenham, and like I literally can't get enough of it. Like I'm finding, every match, like Tottenham.
Yeah, we're watching some Europa qualifier today.
Dude, I was watching yesterday. I was watching because Henry Wingo, who's from Seattle, who played for the Sounders, is playing for a team in Norway who's got a chance to go to the Champions League, and no player from Washington has ever played in the Champions League. So I'm like firing up CBS All Access,
right,
watching a Champions League playoff round being played in front of no one in like Molde, Norway, which I like had to look up and learn about and stuff. Like I was like, okay, maybe I've been hungry for sports. I don't know, because I'm like, oh, soccer everywhere. Because there's tons of soccer being played. You can find soccer to watch anytime
there's
you want.
Plenty of soccer. It's like I said. I feel like I realized why I like it and why I spend my time doing it. My life wasn't terrible without it. Like, it's not like my life was meaningless. It was really enjoyable. I spent a lot of time working around the house and hanging out with my family and just kind of like connecting with people. And again, that was back at the beginning of the pandemic when I hadn't been around these people for 24 hours a day for 6 months yet. So maybe at that time it felt really good to get close to him. At this point, not that I don't enjoy being close to him, but I also enjoy having other things potentially to focus on. So, it's having sports back is nice, and it's nice to know that they still piss me off. Like, last night when I watched the Sounders, and can get angry about that all over again.
Yeah.
But
let's be mad about sports again. I can't wait for WSU to ruin my weekend once again.
Can't wait for Sunday when it's like, God damn it. Yeah.
What the hell? I don't know. Like it's I'm probably going to be like mad when WSU loses that first game, or like with the first game they lose, that's like in devastating fashion, which is guaranteed. Sure. And you're just like, why? We didn't have to have this. Like, it didn't have to happen this year. And so just wait. I'm bottling that, and I'm saving that for the podcast. It's going to be with more passion than what I just did. But I'm just gonna rant about like how this didn't need to happen. We didn't have to play football this year, and then you've tormented me with like this. And then it was nearly that on Sunday night. Like with the Seahawks, you're like, great, they're gonna lose. Like for like two straight, like as soon as New England got the ball back, you're like, cool, we're gonna lose this game now, and I'm gonna be mad about it. And I'm gonna go to bed and probably say something mean to my partner, and like she's like, goddamn Seahawks.
Yeah. Oh, listen, Sarah will say to me things like, I don't understand why you like the Cougs so much, because they don't seem to bring you a lot of joy. I'm like, really? Like, that's what you think? She's like, well, you just are like, you're so just like a
surly.
You're like a ball of stress for 3 hours, and you're yelling at the TV, and like I don't know. It doesn't seem to really make your life better. And I'm like, I mean, you're probably right, but I don't know. Like, it's a thing. Like, this is where, and I guess this is what I figured out is, this is where my friends are. My closest friends are you and, the other guys at Coug Center. And I mean, I have other friends, obviously, that, I went to college with or whatever, but, at this point in my life, you guys are, as close of friends as I have. And the thing that we, have most in common is Cougar sports. And, not that we're not friends when there aren't Cougar sports, because we definitely are, but, these games are sort of a really like a critical part of the fabric of our friendship. I mean, it's what we talk about, and this is what we, these are the experiences that we share with each other. I mean, it's, it's what you talk about when you talk about, going to Pullman or not going to Pullman. And, it's like, these experiences that we share together, are huge parts of our friendships. And so, it's a bummer we won't do that, but I have a feeling, Craig, that you and I may get together at least once this fall, to watch a game together.
Probably,
and we might even involve another Coug Center author or two. So
yeah, I have a feeling that's gonna happen. Yeah. Groups of 4 or 5 are fine.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I'm not saying I'm not planning a barbecue at my house for the first game, but I'm not saying that.
Let's go swimming on November 7th. I'm ready. 6th.
Dude,
I'm ready for it.
I got it. I got a heater for it. Like we can fire that sucker up and warm up the pool.
If it's 40 degrees outside, that thing only needs to be 45, and it's gonna feel warm. So.
Yeah, I'm telling you, one of the things I've learned as a pool owner is there's a big difference between like 70 and 75 and 77 and
absolutely
80. Like even like 79 and 80 is like a world of difference. Like it's pretty funny.
And especially the top versus once you dip your toe in the top, it feels fine, and then you actually go into the rest of the pool and you're like, oh, it's much colder down here.
At the very least, we could definitely fire up the hot tub if it came down to it.
Ooh, the hot tub.
We could do the hot tub. So
as long as you smoke something, I'm fine.
Yeah, smoked meats. I think we should do it. It's a plan.
Smoked meats and football.
Yeah, this club is formed. Let's go.
Yep.
All right.
I
think we've exhausted this thing.
All right. Yep. Subscribe. Rate us 5 stars. Leave a comment. That helps with the algorithms.
Yeah.
If you don't want to rate us 5 stars, then just don't rate us.
That's right. Just nobody wants to hear your bad opinions.
Like honestly, if you again, I say this every time. If you listen this long and you hate it,
what are you doing with your life?
We've just been rambling for 20 minutes. So I don't know. We're rambling for an hour and a half, really, truly. But
yep.
Buy local. If you're in Tacoma, buy from ETC Tacoma, Black-owned business. They do some cool stuff. They did not pay me to do that. I'll say too. Buy from the Coug store. They're having a sale this weekend. They didn't pay us to say that. Just support local businesses. If you love going to businesses in Pullman, try to find a way to buy gift cards or buy stuff from them.
But don't go to Pullman.
But don't if you know someone lives
don't
in Pullman,
do that.
They can go buy Venmo and have them buy you a gift card at Cougar Country or Cella's or whatever, and just because I know all of us, I booked all my hotels for for next football season already. So let's make sure we have places to go when we go there. So support local businesses, all that stuff. Go Cougs.
Go Cougs. Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
All right, buddy.